Good evening to everyone. This side bhawna.shivan. I'm currently working as assistant professor at Department of Sociology, Bharati College, and I'm also enrolled as a PhD scholar at Department of Sociology, JNU Delhi. My current research topic of PhD is social mobility and identity, a study of two scheduled castes in Haryana. This video today is based on social science research. What do we understand by social science research? And how this research is differentiated from a commonsensical or a layman individual talking about their curiosity and passion or knowing that unknown, which is a common platform of any social science research and any common sense or a layman individual talking about going into the detail of any phenomena. Why this difference and why I'm talking about is because we as a sociologist and we as an anthropologist, when we talk about a broad frame of social science research, often engage ourselves into the phenomena that is social in nature and that is cultural in nature. Now, when we talk about the social and cultural phenomena, this is not something we as a researcher in a society is engaged with. We as a researcher going to the society and engaging into the everyday negotiations while observing these social and cultural elements. On the other hand, the individuals whom life we are observing, the other commonsensical or layman individuals whom we are talking as a researcher are also constantly engaged with this phenomena of social. So, social reality is something which is common to us as a researcher. Maybe we are treating it as a field, and it is also common to our respondents, which for them, the social reality is a everyday negotiation. And they also do have a understanding of this social reality. Now, when we talk about a social science research and how we differentiate it with any layman or commonsensical individual talking about something going into the passion of unknown to known, how this differentiation is going about. So, social science research or any research is a systematic activity which is going into the accurate systematic investigation of unknown to known, which is inclusive of a lot of discourses happening at historical, contextual, as well as theoretical and empirical level. Now, these four pillars are somewhat we in our departments, we through our teachers, we in our universities, and we into some research organization or think tanks being trained into how to analyze these four pillars when we are talking about social science research. But for any layman or for any commonsensical man, when they are talking about that they also have curiosity towards knowing something which they don't know, that is not something which they are dealing with half of the time historically, half of the time contextually, half of the time theoretically. Second, they do not have to place their arguments, their discussions, their debates into a theoretical frame of reference. Third, they do not go about the presupposed notions. They do not have to go about the concepts, the variables, and how these variables, in form of concepts, need to be measured on a field. Fourth, they can leave their passion or curiosity any day. But we, as a social science researcher, we cannot leave our passion, our curiosity towards our research. Of course, we, when engaged in MPhil and PhD, it's a degree oriented course and it's a time oriented course too. We have to fulfill our passions and curiosities, but we have to fulfill it within the boundaries of our universities as well as our respective departments. So that is something which needs to be differentiated when we talk about the commonsensical or a layman individual talking about their respective passion and curiosity towards knowing unknown, and when we as a social researcher talk about the curiosity and knowing about the unknown, there is an underlying difference between two. And in most of the research courses and in most of the research YouTube videos as well as documentary, what I observed is that difference is somehow in undergraduate needs to be tell very vibrantly and transparently, because most of the time our students and younger generations might get confused that, ma'am, we also do our researches, with passion and curiosity, and somebody else, one of their peer group, might say that, we are also passionately engaged in reading Harry Potter, while reading Harry Potter sociologically and reading Harry Potter out of the curiosity might have an underlying difference, which we need to understand the society as well as our younger generations through how we deal with the social phenomena, and what are our trainings into respective departments and universities tell us about knowing this unknown. Apart from that, we also, as a social science researcher, need to engage about why, how, and what. So why are we doing research? That is something which we needs to transparently tell our peer groups, our academic community, as well as our supervisors or our teachers. Then how we are going to conduct the basic course of methods, which is telling about how to measure, what are the tools in the sense qualitative as well as quantitative, what kind of method you are using to actually analyze or examine this social phenomena. And the last question comes about what are you dealing with. You need to define it, you need to conceptually as well as theoretically defining the things and understanding things within a respective frame of your discipline. So this why, how, and what, these three questions are very very important for any social science researcher, whether in a sociology discipline or whether in an anthropology discipline, to engage into. Then comes the PSPs. PSP terms for P, purpose, S, scope, and P, practicability. Purpose, scope, and practicability is something which is related to any researcher, be it in any discipline, any department, any university conducting research. You need to be thorough about what is the scope of your research. You need to tell your research community or academic community what kind of impact this research is going to give to your academic community, as well as what are the implications of this research on that academic community. Scope, what is the significance, that is the sociological significance or anthropological significance, how this respective research is going to have an additional impact on all the researches or all the theoretical arguments as well as debates and discussions been already published in your respective disciplines. Then last is practicability, that is how, where, and what are the things you are going to analyze, and you need to have a ready paperwork along with a ready plan how you are going to go about conducting a field work, whom are you going to take these questionnaires, surveys, interview schedules, case studies, or narratives, why these respondents have been chosen, why the particular area has been chosen. You need to be contextually validate your research as well as the pragmatics behind choosing something and the rationale behind choosing something, and why are you conducting your research. So what, how, and where, as well as why, as well as your purpose, scope, and practicabilities. These are some of the underlining issues which are very, very important for any social science researcher to understand, to be self reflexive, and to actually question yourself before entering into the field or before understanding this course of research methodology or method, that how it is going to impact you mentally, physically, as well as on the basis of understanding sociology as well as anthropology. Now when we talk about social and anthropology, both of these disciplines are very much correlated in that sense. Whether we talk about our sociological theories, we also talk about some of the anthropological debates, and whether we talk about research, we also talk about anthropological methods like participant observation, ethnography. These are the two methods which have been highly adopted by sociologists, and the scientific procedure of dealing with the field and how to actually go into the detailed and elaborative account of going to the field and mapping down all the things in that analytical come elaborative manner is something which anthropology has provided us. No matter, as a sociologist, we also have contributed a lot towards the anthropological discipline. We also have been provided a lot in sense of a quantitative methods, where we are dealing with sample surveys, where we are dealing with interview schedules, where we are dealing with questionnaires, and where we are understanding the impact of these three quantitative techniques while going into the trend and the pattern of society, because our society is something which is dynamic in nature, and to analyze that kind of social change and transformation, we need to have certain techniques which can go about, which can directly deal with all these things, which can measure our variables, which can be quantified in nature and also best measured by quantitative techniques. Nowadays, when we talk about social science researches, of course, there is a new method which we are talking about, that is triangulation, which is often termed as mixed method too. Most of the researchers in most of the departments, whether we talk about JNU, Delhi University, or any other state university departments, we are often nowadays engaged ourselves into this triangulation method to have a taste of quantitative as well as qualitative both methods in our researches. And both methods are very, very significant in bringing down the impact, or also in those kind of researches where one concept can be dealt entirely in a quantitative sense, and the other concept is little bit flexible in a sense, and it can be dealt entirely with the qualitative. Just like I was telling initially that my research was on mobility and identity, so I use triangulation as a method for analyzing mobility quantitatively and analyzing social identity qualitatively, where both of the things have direct and indirect questions, both of the concepts analyzed, differently with the different techniques, and also bringing down all the viable options going to the field, and bringing down each and every account of whether it is in terms of measuring their consumable habits, whether in terms of measuring their household survey, or whether in that sense, on the other hand, bringing down what do they understand by their aspirations, what is their social life is all about, what is their cultural life is all about, how they are dealing with this phenomena of identity and identification, which is very flexible and qualitative in nature. So when we talk about triangulation method, that is a need of an hour, and most of our researchers are nowadays engaged themselves in that triangulation method, which is very, very important and significant in contributing towards blending the sociology and anthropology in that manner, where our university and departments are transforming themselves into making that environment or making that space for we as a researchers, and going about these new techniques, new paradigms, and dealing with the new strategies. So this video is not only about talking how to do certain things in a certain manner, but also to raise specific questions, to raise specific concerns, that how in our social science research, when we talk about social science, we do not only have to talk about how sociology is dealing and how sociology is different from any other discipline. Now, when we talk about NEP draft, and when we talk about the changes which has come into higher education, the approach should be very interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary in nature. The approach should be that even if not only dealing with the theories, not only dealing with the conceptual framework, the research in itself should also be conducted in that interdisciplinarity, where we do not only aware of the sociological debates and how to go about sociological research, but also we need to be aware equally of the anthropological debates, and how anthropology as a discipline need to provide us a lot of arguments, discussions, and a completely different frame. Maybe their approach to the field is different from we as a sociologist approaching to the field. Maybe they are having a more elongated process, or a kind of engagement in a field is more elongated in comparison to us as a sociologist, but there is a dire need of blending both of these disciplines in such a way where we come up with all the traditional to contemporary debates within the sociology and within the anthropology, and need to understand them in a more contemporary and a new paradigm kind of a shift or a transformation, which is a need of an hour. We as a academic community need to bring about all the debates of sociology as well as anthropology, need to rethink on it, need to actually deconstruct the notion of how the fieldwork was conducted and now how the fieldwork should be conducted, and how we as a social scientist can contribute towards the field, both field, that is sociology and anthropology, and try to make that blending environment so that we come up with that new pathway to give to our upcoming generations, and also engaging ourselves on the other hand to this new strata where we are talking about all these debates and discussions in that forte where it brings about a change in a society about our perception and reflect on our self reflexivity and ethics of our research. So, this video is all about a basic understanding of social science research, how to differentiate it with commonsensical and layman individual, and also to impinge a lot of concerns which I was thinking, I was dealing, and I think that most of my peer groups are also dealing with, whether they are juniors, whether they are younger to me, whether they are elder to me, or whether they are of my age group. So this video is in sense of impinging on these issues and impinging on basically the blending of both the disciplines, where we don't go only about this is sociological and this is anthropological, but coming up with that sort of a social anthropological and not social anthropological in ancient times or in traditional times how we were dealing with it, in a very new sense, in a very new paradigm where they blend, but they also blend in that manner where they enhance this interdisciplinarity, which is a need of an hour, not only in theoretical sense but also in research sense. So please do comment and please do write to me, where I will be writing down my email ID into the comment section about how do you feel about these debates of anthropological sociological blending, and if you come across any of these readings, or maybe we can make another video on, if you through your comments or through your email can tell me that what else we can discuss about. And this is just a first video on social science research per se, or on research. I will be making other videos too, but I also need to impinge on all the debates and discussions where I am lacking at, or where you think that we need to come up with these issues and we need to talk about this in a broad forum. Thank you.